In today's tutorial, let's do a super granny scarf, and this is really neat. You don't have to make it as long as you don't want to. Today, there's something nice going on in this particular square. I'd like to show you what's going on there. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to do another super scarf. It's a super granny scarf where these granny squares are just kind of sewn to each other in order to form a scarf. Of course, if you don't want a scarf that's 100 inches long, you can stop earlier, and these squares are actually a very fair size. But what's going on in the center here? Do you see it? No, probably not. I'm going to show you what example looks like, because I actually think this color is actually hiding some of the texture, well, at least in this photograph, of what's going on. And of course the colors in any pattern are just suggestions. So here's what one of the squares looks like. So it has a center like this, and then it begins to transition back to a square in order to get it. So you can change colors as often or as little as you wish, and in today's pattern it's suggesting the Caron Simply Soft yarn with a 5mm size H crochet hook today. I'm gonna get you started on this pattern where it's gonna transition from a circle to a square, and then the remaining is just a matter of just growing it out as if you're familiar with granny squares. And then at the end I'm gonna show you a technique of being able to put these together, and then we have another video for fringing in order to follow if you would like to do that. But let's get started, and I'm going to keep my same color scheme, and of course every square doesn't need to be the same color for you. You can be creative and do whatever you want. So quickly back to the pattern, we have all of the colors that you would like to do if you wanted to match exactly what the model is wearing, and then there's a crochet diagram which I love, so you can see how things are working up, and to me I love the diagrams. It's just what makes it easy, and you can see how that we follow it up on an edge, and then we continue to start. So I'm going to be demonstrating how to do this, and then once I get beyond the square then, or beyond the circle, and it becomes standard, then I'm going to leave the rest for you, and then you can finish it off on your own, and then I'll show you how to do the whip stitching to put them together. So let's begin to start, and we're going to create a slip knot. Now I know the white is kind of difficult to see on my background, but I want to keep the colors consistent within my project. So I'm going to start off with a slip knot. Remember that it never counts as one when it's on the hook. So we're going to then chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and insert your hook into the beginning chain just like that, and then it's yarning over and pulling it through. When I go to start round number 1, what I want to do is to put this straggler around the ring as if it's part of it, and therefore it get hidden, so you'll never see the starting strands of your granny square. Let's move along to round number 1. So round number 1, we're gonna immediately go right for a circle. So we're gonna chain up 3. So 1, 2, 3, and this 3 counts as a double crochet. So we want to double crochet 11 more times into the center of the ring. So just yarning over, going right into the center of the ring, making sure that this straggler is right over top of the ring so it gets stuck underneath, and I want you to double crochet. So let's count those out together. So that was 1, and I want a total 11 of those, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So remember that chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so count that one, and there should be a total of 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Once you're satisfied with that and you got your 12, just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3, and that is round number 1. So now that you've buried that straggler in, just grab your scissors at this time and just get rid of that straggler now so that it's out of your way. You don't have to ever see it again, and now you never saw where your starting point is. And let's move along to round number 2. So let's begin round number 2. We're gonna chain 3. It's counting as a double crochet, and we're gonna come right directly into the same space right underneath, and you're gonna double crochet again. Each one of these 12 are gonna each have 2 double crochets coming out of it. So move over to the next one, next stitch available to you, and place 2 double crochets into that one too. So 1 and 2. Once you get your 2 in, move to the next stitch, and you're gonna continue to do that all the way around, and when you count, then there should be 12 groups of 2, which equals a total of 24 double crochets. So please do that all the way around for round number 2. So I'm coming up all the way around and I'm done. So you're thinking to yourself, well, it looks like you have one more stitch left. I don't. See how this is leaning over toward this stitch? This is part of that stitch. So don't think that it is an extra. That's where people go wrong on these things. So there should be 12 groups of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Once you're satisfied, just join it to the top of the beginning chain 3, and look what happened when I pulled it together. It pretty much came together like it's not even any gapping space at all. So that's where people go wrong when they're doing these circles. Let's move along and let's go to row number 3. So let's begin row number 3. Let's chain up 3, counts as a double crochet, and I want you to double crochet 2 more times into that same spot right underneath. So this one's slightly different from anything else that I've done with these granny squares generally, and this is kind of unique. So once you get your 3 done, so see chaining 3 counts as 1, so 1, 2, 3. You're going to then chain 1. You're going to skip 1 stitch and go to the second over, and you're going to do 3 more double crochets into the next one. So 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Once you get that done, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, go to the second over, and put 3 more into the next. Please do that same idea going all the way around. So I'm coming up all the way around and I'm just putting my last 3 double crochets into the final. Okay, so skip 1 and then I'm back at the beginning. So chain up 1 first and then just join. So this is where I say goodbye to this color. This is done for me. This is just a personal choice to change it at this moment. So to change my colors, all I'm just gonna do is snip my yarn, and I'm just going to pull it over and push it through the hook. I'll pull it through the hook, or pull it through the loop, sorry, and I'm gonna weave in and out of these stitches, and I want to get to a gapping space so that the gapping space is where things get held into position. So I want to make sure at least crosses one of those. 2 of them is better if you wish. So I'm just gonna keep on going, and it's the only way to really kind of hide these loose ends when you're doing granny squares, because it can fall out, especially if you're changing a lot of colors all the time. So this is kind of the way I do it. If you have a better way, then of course by all means go for it. So once you get that satisfied in there, just trim it down, and let's move on to next color. And my color is going to be this beautiful one. This is called Orchid by Caron Simply Soft, and let's move on to that one, which is row number 4. So let's create a slip knot to begin. This is my own personal choice, and what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to look for any chain 1 space. So see how they're working groups of 3? That's a chain 1 space right that's in between them. You can go into any one. I like to just kind of mix and match where my startings are, so I just choose somewhere else on the circle. It doesn't matter, they're all equal. So I'm just going to just pull it through and attach, and I'm just going to then begin. So I'm gonna chain up 3, so 1, 2, and 3 counts as a double crochet, and in this one I want to double crochet a total of 2 more times. So there's a total of 3 of them into the same space. So between this row and the last one, this time we're going to chain up 2 and then skip over to the next chain 1 space and just 3 double crochets there. So the only difference is that we're adding an extra chain in order to have this granny square really kind of growing out a lot quicker. So chain 2, move to the next chain 1 space, and please do that all the way around. I'll see you at the end of this round. So I'm coming up all the way around and I'm placing my 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space. It's kind of neat, kind of reminded me of a clock. And then to finish off, chain 2 and then just join to the top of the beginning chain 3 that you'd started with, like that. So at this point at the other side is that you would have had a straggler, so you can safely trim that out, and that's gone. So let's move along to round number 5. In round number 5, what's gonna happen now, just you see here, this is the circle where we are. Round number 5, now we're going to then go right to a square. So we're gonna start off right in the corner, and we're gonna just start off with some trebles to begin, and then we're gonna carry on. So 1 space here is gonna have the corner, 2 spaces are a flat edge, and then the next space is another corner. So it repeats that way going all the way around. So we have this again, so we got the corner, 2 spaces are a flat edge, and then the next space is a corner. Do you see that? So as long as you can understand that, it makes it quite easy to be able to follow along. So let's go for row number 5. So let's go for row number 5. We're now going to convert this into a square. Let's chain up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That counts as a treble. And into the same space right directly underneath, I need you to wrap the hook twice for a treble, and I want you to treble 2 times. So that was 1, and wrap the hook again twice, and then that's doing another treble. So these are trebles, so they're a lot bigger than original ones. So we're gonna chain up 1, and we're gonna move to our first space. So this is a flat side, so there's only gonna be 3 double crochets there. So 1, 2, and 3, followed by a chain 1. Then you go to another space, which is still gonna be a flat side, so there's only gonna be 3 double crochets in that one. So 2 of them in a row are the flat sides. Chain 1. So now here's the next one. So you got your flat sides done, there's 2 in a row, so this must be a corner. So to do a corner, you're gonna treble a total of 3 times. So 1, and treble again for 2, treble again for 3. Okay, so you got one partial of the corner done. So you're gonna then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, coming into the same corner, wrap it twice for a treble, and treble again 3 times. So now you've just completed a full corner. So when we started, we only started with a partial corner, and we'll finish that corner when we get back all the way to the spot over here. So we've only done 1/2 of the corner at this point. So chain up 1, let's do a flat edge. Remember, it's putting 3 double crochets in a row into the space, followed by a chain 1, move to the next one, which is still a flat space because there's 2 in a row. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then the next one is a corner. So the corner, remember, is a treble 3 times, followed by chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and treble again 3 times. So I want you to carry on with that same pattern going all the way around for round number 5, and this really is not a hard pattern at all by any stretch, and you can see it's a lot of fun. So to begin the next one, so just chain up 1, do your sides, and then another square. So I will see you back here, and you can see that we're almost halfway around. So as you come all the way back around, you're gonna run into the first corner. You've already done a portion of it, but now you're gonna finish it on this side. So I've already done my 3 in there, and I've already done my chain 1. So now I'm gonna treble into the same one that I had started with, and you're gonna complete the other side of that corner. And you're trebling total 3 times. And then to finish off the corner, okay, because you can still see that there's a hole right there, you chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then just join to the top of the first treble of the chain 4. Okay, so that's how you would do that, and there is this square now, and let's move along, and I'm gonna take you on further. I'm now gonna take you on to round number 6. And now 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, so there's 5 rows now from this point, is all gonna be identical to each other. And I'm gonna show you only once, because the reality is that these spaces that you see here just get more and more. The corners are always gonna be the same. So this is now converted back into a regular granny square. So let's chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then we're just gonna double crochet into the same space right underneath 2 more times. So that chaining 3 counts as a double crochet. And then just chain up 1 and look for the next space. Originally when you go to start doing this, you're thinking, wow, it's gonna be kind of loose, but the reality is once it gets all the way around, you'll see that it really comes back in balance. So 3, and then chain 1, go into the next space for another 3. So every time you revolve around this, you're gonna get more spaces between the corners, so you just fill them in with 3 double crochets, followed by a chain 1 after that's done. So I'm about to hit my first corner right there. So chain 1. So the corners are always gonna be the same. There's gonna be 3 double crochets to start. It's gonna be 2 chains, 1 and 2, and then 3 more double crochets into the same corner. Just like that. Okay, so now you just move along your sides again. So chain up 1, and then the next space is 3 double crochets. So continue to do that same idea going all the way around. I'll meet you at the end, and I'll show you how to finish this round, and then just get you started in the next, and I'll leave the rest for you to do. And I do a color change after this particular row as well, or round as well, and just follow whatever you want is in your heart for design, or just look at the pattern if you're influenced to make the same example as the model is wearing. So continue to do that all the way around. So as you get all the way back around, the last corner is the one that you started with, so there's already a half already done, so you just finish it off with 3 double crochet and then finish it off with chain 2 and then just join it to the top of the chain 3 that you'd started with. So at this point for myself is that then there's only 4 more rounds left, and so the next 2 rounds are a different color. So I'm just gonna change out my color with you on screen, and so I'm just trim my work, pull it through, and I'm just gonna weave it through. And I want to get it so it's gonna, the next time there's stuff going into the gap space, so it's gonna hold it down into position, and then as long as I get to the first gapping space, that's also gonna hold it into position as well. So I like to just do it that way, just makes it more peace of mind for myself, and then I trim. So let's begin, and I'm going for gray next in my particular color scheme. So when I start colors, I start off with a slip knot, and every round from this point from the last one is all identical. So I'm just gonna choose a different corner to go into. I just like to randomize it a bit. It just is my thing. So I just attach it, chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, going into the same space underneath for 2 more double crochets like so. So I just covered this and chain 1, move to the next space, and then there's 3 double crochets into the same one. And then in corners again, it's always the same, a 3 double crochet, 2 chain, 3 double crochet, and then just revolve all the way around. So the next time I see you, I will have the whole square done, and then I'm gonna show you a sewing technique of whip stitching in order to put these together in order to have a really beautiful seam if you're gonna wear it as a scarf. And you can also use the same technique if you're doing Afghan or throw work or anything like that. And I'll see you at that time. So in just finishing up my final revolution, there's a total of 10 revolutions around here, 10 rounds to make this granny square. And of course if you want to make it bigger, you can continue. If you didn't want it so big, you can stop earlier. As long as you're consistent, you know, you are the artist at the end of the day, so you can do what you want. So just continuing to go as normal, and now I'm gonna completely fasten off at this point, and I am done making the square. So what I would recommend to you is that if you're gonna do the scarf as is, probably get all your squares done first and then lay them out on the table and determine how many you want to do, unless you want to do the entire super scarf, and then you can just make it to the length that you would like to do. So at this point I'm going to show you how to do a whip stitch in order to bring these together so you have a really beautiful seam through. And there's different ways of doing it. Some people like to single crochet, other people like to bunch their edges together. I'm gonna show you an invisible seam that is actually really quite desirable, and etc. So let's just finish that off, and I'm going to grab my yarn and I'm gonna show you what to do next. So this is another super scarf that I did, and this is using the Caron Cakes yarn, and I did the fringing afterwards, so you might see that as I turn it around. So this is done with an invisible seam that is joining these squares together. Now because all the squares are the same size, is that they just match directly to each other as they begin. So this particular one that we're working on is that they're just lining up like so. So forget that you see this one up here, and they just kind of go stacked. So you could just do anything that you want to do it, and this is an invisible seam. It has a really beautiful finish on the front side and the back, and it's a whip stitching using a technique of just using one of the loops, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So I'm gonna need you to grab some yarn. So let's look at the length of this, and let's grab the same color that you're using for the edge, and just make sure you have a little bit of extra, and just trim it. You're gonna need a darning needle for this particular element to it, and I'm just grabbing that here off screen, and I want to put the darning needle onto this strand, and on the other side I want you to form a slip knot, and this is my own kind of idea in order to really kind of not be paranoid that it's gonna fall apart. So now I got my strand ready, but what am I gonna do? I'm gonna show you exactly how to do the invisible seam. So here I have 2 granny squares that are identical, and I'm only attaching them here. So then the next one will then be attached here. So for my scarf. So it's, you see it's quite a distance. So let's take a look at the stitch work. So remember that when we had stitches we have 2 loops. Okay, so we have 2 loops make 1 stitch, just like you see here. Let me zoom in on that, and let me just show you that in a second. See? So you see that there's 2 loops. Okay, so the first one closest to you is the front loop, and the other one away from you is the back loop. And so what I want you to do is pay attention to these loops, because where you attach this yarn together matters, and being able to make it do a beautiful join. So let me just back away the camera a little bit, and then I'm gonna show you exactly what to do. So the technique is to have the front sides facing up. So the good sides are facing up. You can see that there's a definite difference of one side versus the other. So if you see it like this, you see it doesn't look the same. So you want to make sure your sides are facing up, just for your ease. So what I want you to do is that you're gonna start off in the corner. Remember that there was 2 chains right in the corner. So instead of just going through 2 strands like you would be as if it was a stitch, you want to go through the back one of this one here. So if you looked at it from this point of view, you're going to the back one. And I want you to pull this strand partially through, but not all the way. And then I want you to go to the other same one on the other side. It's the first chain. Okay, and this time I want to get the front loop on this one if I'm looking at it from this perspective. So it's the front loop of that same chain. So I'm not going into both of the strands on either of these, just one or the other. Okay, and once I get it close, I'm gonna put this needle through the loop like so, and just kind of pull it snug. Now I want to use this straggler, and I want to kind of just position it like this for myself, and I want to leave this straggler down on top. I know it's kind of harder to see. Let me get back in and show you exactly what I'm doing. So what I want to do is that I want to move to my first one here. So on this one here, I want to go to the back loop, okay, from my point of view, and this one here I want to go to the same stitch. So this is the first one of the 3 double crochets, so I'm gonna go to the first of the 3 double crochets on the other side and go for the front loop of that one. Okay, so it's whatever is facing you. So before I pull this nice and shut, I want to get that straggler so that the straggler comes in between the loop like this, and leave that straggler down, therefore you don't have to hide it later. So now just moving to the second one, go to the back loop on this one, front loop on this one, leaving that straggler down in, just kind of wrap it around. This is called a whip stitch, and I'm pulling on it, but I'm not going crazy about it. So go to the next double crochet, back loop in that one, front loop in this one, and I'm leaving that straggler. So once you get past and you've got about 1 inch or so of the straggler, then it's good. So this is the chain, so you're gonna go to the back loop of the chain and go to the chain on the other side for the front loop like that, and just wrap. So I'm gonna let that straggler now fall out of the way and behind. So I just continue just to match. So this one's a double crochet, I'm matching to the other double crochet. So back loop this one, front loop in the other. So what you're doing here is that you're creating an invisible seam using the same colors, so you barely see this yarn at all, and it will have a nice finish to it. And you just want to make sure you take your time, don't rush the process, lay it flat if you need to, and just continue to work your way across. I enjoy sewing on these crochet projects because the sewing means that you're almost done, and so for me it's kind of a symbol that it's like a crossing sign that you're almost at the finishing point. And what you want to do is that you just want to continue to whip stitch yourself all the way down. So I'm going to continue to do this off camera, and then I'll meet you at the end of this row where I'm gonna show you what to do next in order to finish this off. So I'm just finishing up going all the way down. I want to make sure there's not too much tension here, because if you get too much tension it's gonna look like it's bunching up when you go to join these things. I'm continuing just to match the stitches as I've gone across, and whatever angle it is for you to be able to work with is completely up to you. Sorry, my hat is bumping into the camera. I have my special glasses on, and yet I'm still bumping into the camera to get closer. So I'm gonna go right to the edge, just making sure everything's matching to each other, and I'm gonna go to the first chain in once I get to a corner. So there we go. So one more, and they're gonna match. So now I'm just gonna, before I do anything and tie it off, I just want to kind of stretch things, make sure it's all good. See that? Beautiful seam right down through the middle. You can do this with any granny square. And then what you just do is, now that you've got that done, just tie a quick little knot here. So just like that, no big deal. And I want you to drag the hook or sorry, the needle through about 1 inch in one direction. Don't put any tension on it, just kind of make sure it's nice and loose, and then go back in the other direction, and that's the second time. And if you go back and forth 3 times, you can completely cut that down into the project and you'll never see it. So go one more time in the other direction. It's called an invisible seam. It actually looks amazing if you do it right. Just like that. And I can cut it right down to the project. And because the other one I was burying it as I went, it's on the back, I can safely then trim that one as well. And let me quickly show you how to do fringe, because now that you have this sewn together, you just continue to do that until you get to the edge. But now let's do a fringe, and I'll show you how to do that next. So let's review on how to do fringe. So fringe is basically what's hanging off it. It's completely optional if you wish to put it on or not. So you need to do 4 strands that are 20 inches long, and they have to be pre-cut before you can do this. So that's what I have here. So what I'm not worried about if I got it a little bit wrong at the same time, but what I want to do is take that strand now and fold it in half. So take them all, and I don't want to lose the loop that is created around the halfway point. Now using my darning needle, I'm going to insert my hook into a stitch right on an edge. Pull the yarn through like that, okay, and using that hook you still have it where it's separated, and then just using your fingers insert the rest of that through that loop like that, and then just pull. Just don't go crazy on it, but just pull it nice and tight. So let me review on how to do that again. So take the next group, so you're gonna want to prepare it in advance and fold it roughly in half. Get it as close as you can. Once you have that, you have a loop. Go to your next stitch, or if you want to go every other stitch, that's completely up to you. Just insert your hook, pull the yarn group through, it'll still be separated, and then just put these strands all through that big loop that you're creating. So just take your time with it and pull it through, and then once it's through, just pull on it and make it nice and snug. So that'd be how you would do fringe for this. It's a kind of a neat concept. Fringe actually is kind of what makes it, and then once it's all, you get enough in there, it'll all look nice and fringy, and therefore you'll have a really good time. So that's it for how to do this particular granny square. This is a super square, super scarf with yarnspirations.com. Have a super afternoon, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.